Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to talk about the secret project number 1 by Sanderson, and I wanted to post a review of every secret project because they seem fun to make videos about, especially since we don't know much about like the books before they come out, etc. And I'm going to try to be a understandable person in this, but you know me, I am chaos, so we shall see how this goes. If you are unaware somehow that the secret project was announced last year in Brandie Sanderson's Kickstarter campaign, if you supported a Kickstarter, you would get access to the hardcover, etc. before everyone else, and get access to like the ebook before everyone else, as well as the audiobooks. But now they are up for purchase, the audiobooks and ebooks. You can get them. So before anyone else, you could also read this now, even though you didn't support the Kickstarter. I believe it is on Amazon and etc. like the normal ebook services, as well as the audiobooks are available on Spotify and another book website I cannot remember the name of. If anyone wants to check them out, I don't think they can get them because they didn't support the Kickstarter. I think the hardcovers are available first for the Kickstarter supporters. Like, I haven't got my hardcover yet, and I think that you can buy like that exclusive hardcover on this website, but they will be shipped out after the Kickstarter supporters' copies, and then it will be released normally from a normal publishers, like in the stores, etc. I think 4 months after like the Kickstarter release date, which was the 1st of January, so I believe the 4th of April is then when it will become in stores like normally. But yeah, if you were unaware. And what is like interesting about these books is that Brandie Sanderson didn't want a lot to be released about the books before it was released. Like, obviously we have, I think, known the cover for a little while and then like a synopsis, but it was very easy to avoid both cover and synopsis before, while as if it's a usual release you would see it everywhere and it's hard to avoid. I hadn't actually seen like the cover in its like fullness, I was gonna say, before like very recently, and I didn't really know the title of the book either, which is why I'm calling this like video secret project instead of like saying the title. If people still want it to be a secret, if people want to wait until they get the physical copies and don't want to know more anything else. But I will have spoilers later in this video, as you can probably read in the title. This will be a spoiler section later, but I will tell you when it comes on and like a timestamp it, etc. But for now, no spoilers, and I don't want to talk much about like the plot of the story, because again I feel like the whole part of it being secret is what intrigued me a lot. And obviously Brandie Sanderson is one of my favorite authors, and I would have read this anyway, regardless of knowing or not knowing about the story. But I love how he wanted to not tell people much about the projects beforehand, and I thought that that was really fascinating. I also love that these stories for the secret project he wrote for himself, or in this case this is the project he wrote for his wife, and he wrote it without expectations or pressure or anything for anyone else. It was just a story he wanted to tell, and you can definitely, I think, see that in the story itself. Like, it's not, I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't feel very similar to his other projects in the Cosmere. I feel like there was like the grand big plans, like Mistborn and some like Archive. I feel like this feels more like a low-key beautiful story, and it's very interesting to see like the differentiations of like those and those before. I don't know if differentiations is a word. The difference is what I was trying to say, and I just thought it was fascinating to compare the two. So I really like the shortest synopsis I could give you is that it follows a girl who is going out to save the boy she loves, and we go into this adventure in a world that Brandie Sanderson created, and it is very different and very interesting to see how the story is told. It's told very whimsical, humoristic. It's not a middle grade, but you can definitely like see some, I'm not going to say middle grade aspects, but more like the kind of whimsicalness you can find in middle grade in it. And you can definitely see like a lighter tone to the story. It's told in a really funny way as well. Like, our point of view is not our point of view. But it is our point of view, and it's very interesting because I don't think he has done like a narrative like this before, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. I don't want to say more, as I said, but it is just the way it was written, very interesting, very much an upbeat story from Brandie Sanderson. He wrote in his acknowledgement / author's note in the end that it reminded me a bit of like The Princess Bride. Is that what it's called? I don't remember the title right now. And it also reminded me a bit of like Good Omens. That was like the vibe I was going for. But I read Good Omens and I didn't like love that. So I'm not saying like if you didn't love Good Omens you're not going to enjoy this. But it's like in that kind of like humoristic vibe in a way, but not even the same. But I could see like the vibe he was like describing when I read the author's note, definitely. And if you like have that in mind, it's very interesting. I didn't expect that at all. It took me completely off guard because I'm used to his more like serious narrative voice of like these big epic stories, and here we have this adventure that is fits like really neat and just like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just very interesting. I had the narrative that was told and like how it was written, very, very interesting. And then obviously we have the world, which is again in Brandon Sanderson style. We have a kind of magic system. They didn't have like the super complexity and interestness of like the magic system we usually see. It was not simplified either, but it was very interesting. And we go on the sea. Yeah, it's not like a spoiler, but we go on the sea, and the sea is very not sea as you even think it is. And I was just sitting there like, I had a hard time actually imagining how this all looked like and worked. I kind of got it after a while, but I was also a bit confused. And I usually feel like I have a very good image in my head of like what Brandon Sanderson is trying to present in his magic systems, like with, you know, Mistborn and like all the metals and pulling and pushing and all that is very complex, but I still had a good image of it. Here I like struggled. I don't know why, like probably a me thing, but I feel like I didn't have like the clear full picture that he usually do when he explains stuff, and that bothered me slightly. But it's not like the book was bad or anything because of this, but it's just like I thought that I had a hard time imagining stuff. But again, just very fascinating, very interesting. He said also we might see more of it in the future. Again, author's note is amazing. And then we have, you know, the story, the plot, which is very much like a plot you heard before. It's a girl finding the boy she loves, and I feel like you kind of guess kind of where the character development would go through the story. Like I could kind of guess it and see it really early on. But the thing about it, even the things that were not obvious, but the things that like is things you could maybe foresee, Brandon Sanderson know we are foreseeing it in the story. He says in the story several times. You probably, reader, has already seen this, or like not exactly like that, but it's not how it is written, but it's kind of like how he says it. You have already probably seen or noticed this, but our main character has not yet. So even he knows that we know. He wrote the story so we will know. So it's not like it was like we were clever. He wrote it for us so we could be clever. And in that, like, that thought alone, like, boggles my mind that you are such a good storyteller that you could write a story, and even for like the reveals or like something is happening that like you kind of could guess, but he wrote it so that you will be able to guess it. And I know like this is not like a normal and people do this constantly, etc. Like that the reader would guess it right before it happens, but it was just how it was so smoothly done, because Brandon Sanderson did this so that we would know it at the exact right moment. And I was just sitting there like, how do you do that? Do you write a story like that? I just don't get it. And I think like that was really cool. So I just really enjoyed that. How things play out, very interesting, very fun. Loved it deeply. I can't say that much more about the plot. I have like a few plot points I want to mention. But literally I was reading some parts of this on like the subway, and then I almost cried. Like I had tears in my eyes. I was sitting there like this. If this was my, you know, Kindle, and I was just like like a lot of expressions, and I just realized that if people looked at me right now, I would look crazy, but I don't care. But yeah, I almost cried, and it was such a ride. So I want to mention also quickly the characters. I don't want to like talk more about it because again, spoilers, but I had a weak spot for inherently good characters. Like that they are just thoroughly good, and that they're just good because they are. I love, as anyone else, a morally grey, complex character that does mistakes, that is stupid, that, I don't know, kills people, or, like, does bad things, and, like, maybe not always regret it, because bad things happen, and, like, you know all those stories where, like, you follow kind of shit main character, and I love those stories as well, as everyone else. I know a lot of people love them. But also, I love inherently good characters. I love someone who will always do the right thing, who always does things with kindness and care, and just is a person that people would trust and love. I love that kind of character as well. And sometimes it's just they heartbreak me, because while everyone around are not doing the right thing, our main character always will, or like that character we follow always will. And that kind of character just melts my heart. They're like a soft cinnamon bun that I want to like hug forever, because it's just something about always being good in a world that is always cruel to them, and just keeping that goodness. We follow so many stories. We see people break, like people have been trying to do good for such a long time, and they break and they become the villain, or they do something awful and they regret it, etc. But there's just something about those characters that don't break, that always tries their best. And I just think that there's such strength in them and beautifulness in them. and it could never be me, but reading about them always melts my heart. And there we have the main character that is so inherently good that I just cannot help caring for them and just wanting them to be okay, and just seeing their actions and what they do makes me tear up. And then we have the other counterparts to that. We have some really, really great characters that I wish I could talk more about here, but I don't want to give anything away, literally. We have other characters that like give so much to the story, that fills our main character with love, and it is just very much a like family kind of story. If you have followed me for a while, family is one of my favorite tropes, so I just cannot help falling in love with the story. Just the way that you choose to care about someone that is not like I was gonna say forced in your blood. It is just something about that melts my heart. And I even like cared kind of for the romance. Like, I usually don't love Brandie Sanderson romances except Vin and Ellen, because I just think they are like, I don't get why these people like each other. Here it was just the way it was kind of a fairy tale, but Brandie Sanderson again said they didn't want to tell a fairy tale, but it just had like that kind of vibe as well that he did realize it did have. It just made me fall in love with them, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So what else to say? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I could talk more, but we have the narrative, which is unique and special and a bit whimsical, but I loved it. The setting, which is really cool, and I don't want to talk more about, which is spoilery. The characters, which were great, and a plot, which was not a typical Brandie Sanderson plot, as I'm just repeating myself, but like, it's not the high stakes fantasy that you usually see in other Cosmere. It's just much more a lower story, but I loved it. I feel like this maybe wouldn't speak to everyone that loves Brandie Sanderson, because we are used to his, as I mentioned before, Mistborn and Solo Archive, and like the biggest groundbreaking stuff ever. But in this story, you get kind of a low-key fairy tale of this, and it is not for everyone. I can definitely see it not being for everyone, and not everyone would love it. But for me, it hit all the spots that I love. I love this kind of mystical story. I love a found family. I love a main character like this. And I just love how everything played out. So for me, it is a perfect story because it hits all the spots that I enjoy. And it is also clever, but also feels different than the other kind of clever that Brandie Sanderson has shown in the past books. I don't know how to describe it. So I'm curious to see if like, really like, I was gonna say, different kinds of fans of stories and Brandie Sanderson's like work would enjoy this, because it feels very different from what he has done before, which is kind of the point. It's not the point of the secret project, but this one just hit in all the right spots for me. And of course I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because again, hit all the spots, and it is like all I ever wanted. So yeah, I think that leaves off with a non-spoiler part. So I realized that some people will only watch this part of the video, which I was gonna say, respect. Go, leave. We will have spoilers now. I need to discuss a few things, and if you want to comment on the things I like say here, and if you read a book, please like mark your spoilers down below, so people who don't scroll through the comments get spoiled, etc. Like, wrote spoiler first maybe, and then like go a few spaces down to write your comment, please. But yeah, let's go into some spoilers. So I feel like there's just a few points I want to talk about here. I'm not gonna like discuss the whole book because we are not here for that long. But first, I want to talk about Hoyd is the one telling the story, because you think it is Tress telling the story, and it is her story. I mean, kind of in her point of view, but it's Hoyd telling it, because we switch over to I when it is him, and then we have her. So he observes everything and tells the story, and he's also cursed, and yeah. I didn't expect that. I knew that Hoyd was going to be like, from the point of view, I knew that he like had something to do with like the books. I don't know if he was going to be another secret project, but I just didn't know he was going to be so directly in the story. Like, I knew he was going to probably show up, but that the fact is from his point of view. Loved it. Didn't know it. And that's why, like, as I mentioned earlier in the non-spoiler part, that the two like narratives mixed together and how he like talks to the reader, perfectly done. Love that so much. I really want to mention like the magic system, which is basically spores. So if you like have a fungus thing, I don't know if you will be triggered by this, but the way that the ocean is not an ocean, it is just, what was it exactly? Spores? I was so confused. And then like obviously they're triggered by water because it's like watering a plant in a way, and I'm just So I had a hard time imagining that, but I thought it was interesting with the different seas, and that it was more and more dangerous and which one you were. And I liked all that. And then we had pirates, which I didn't know it was going to be a pirate story at all. Did not expect that. Hello, we got a pirate story from Brandon Sanderson. I mean, we have Skyward, which is a bit, you know, not piratey, but you know what I mean. And I didn't expect it to be a pirate story and a ship story. I love ship stories because then they're stuck on a ship and they're forced to be friends. And that's like the best way you can find a fine family trope. And I love that. I just need to mention all the stuff here. So we have, you know, the characters. So we had Crow, who was like kind of the villain, who had like the sport thing inside of her. That was weird. But then we have Fort, who was deaf, and his little board. And when his board broke, it broke me. I was like, I was broken. And then we had Anne, who couldn't shoot, and she had like the eye thing later, and she, what's it called? I wrote it down. Micropizza, that makes like objects look in different sizes. And when like she got that healed, again, I want to cry. This is like a very emotional scene for me because I cared so much about how Tress used her boom to help these other people again, and they're the good characters. What are they doing to me? And then we also had, you know, Soleil, who like she found her father, and that also my heart, like seriously. I cannot. You know, she went with the dragon, and then like he made the dragon take the crow captain instead of her. And in this scene, I knew that was gonna happen because like Hoyd had hinted at it so much. And here was a place where like we realized what she would do before she realizes it herself. And I just thought it was really cleverly done because it made us feel clever while we actually weren't that clever, because Brandon Sanderson made it like that, okay? And then we had like the, you know, the zombie doctor, Ulam, and he was hilarious, and he just wanted to have everyone's body parts. And very interesting character. I wonder how like he came to be. Hoyd like hinted to him that like he was really powerful and like had known him before, and like Ulam hinted that he knew Hoyd. So I wonder, like, not that they're the same kind of being, but like I wonder if we would see Ulam again in another story, because like it seemed like they knew of each other in a different way than everyone else. Interesting. Then we had Huck, the rat, which wasn't really a rat, as we found out in the end that he was really Charlie the whole time. I had an inkling of this a bit, not early on, because I was just like, oh, a random rat. And then like later, when like we found out that he was like the familiar of the witch, I was just like, is he Charlie? And I think, again, Brandon Sanderson put it up like this because later in the story it was just like, we probably realized that you have already realized it, but she hadn't realized this yet. And I was just like, Brandon Sanderson, stop telling me what I'm supposed to realize, because I'm unsure if I am realizing what you think I realized. But again, it was true, and I was just like, okay, thank you for giving me that. And I actually thought that either Charlie would be an ass when we found him and like they wouldn't be together, or that like she would have been too changed for like him and he would just be like a rock boy because they came from a rock. And then they weren't. They were perfect together, and my heart was really happy. The way this things was told, like the dragon, we had like an actual dragon in a Brandon Sanderson book. Has that even happened before? I don't even know. The way just the story was set up, the way like we went from the little town and then we saw her character, how she had always been like this, but like her development, her confidence in herself, and finding all these people and helping them instead of like going after what she wanted because she thought that would be the best thing to do, and it turned out it was. She was just such inherently good, and I loved it. And then like we met all these wonderful characters, and then we, you know, I was wondering how the sorcerers would be. I wonder if we would see her again. She left this planet, so I wonder like where she went. I assume Brandon Sanderson knows. Yeah, we had so much of Hoy that we had never had before. We saw definitely many more sides of him, and just how he was the one narrating the story. I just loved it so much. And yeah, I realized that this spoiler part was nuts, but those are the things I wanted to talk about. Cool stuff. And then there was, you know, the used spores. I forgot that you use them and move them around, and they had different like attributes, and I feel like we didn't delve too much deeper into that. We used the midnight spores, and you were really thirsty when you did that. But I feel like I wanted to see more of the magic system, because I was a bit confused what the other spores did. Did I miss that? Maybe. So for that part, it was like, you know, the magic spores thing. Could have seen more of that, but we shall see. Sometimes I wanted to tell a story on the ocean, but that was not an ocean. And he said, what is the point of putting a shape on the ocean that's not an ocean if it's just gonna act like an ocean? So I had to make sure that they didn't act like an ocean. And it was a good time. It was a really good time. I just wanted to basically talk about all the big things that happened slightly to tell you that I loved it all and that it was crazy. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I think I made more sense than I usually do, and you should see me soon in a new one. Check out my Patreon down below if you want to support my channel further, and you should see me soon. Goodbye.